134. This is lesson 18, and today we are talking about sharps, double sharps, and double flats. So a sharp, just one sharp, raises a note by 1/2 step, okay? When you have two sharps, this one sends it up 1/2 step, this one sends it up 1/2 step, okay? So 1/2 step plus 1/2 step equals 1 whole step. So when you see two sharps by a note, that makes the note not just go up 1/2 step, but a whole step, okay? So if this was F sharp, okay, what's a whole step higher than F sharp, or a whole step higher than F? F sharp is the same as G natural, okay? So when you go up a whole step from F sharp, you get to G. Now, most of the time, double sharps are not written as two sharps. Now, you might see it that way. I've seen it that way in some music, okay? But most often, it looks kind of like this X, okay? So usually you'll just see like an X, maybe something like that, with little dots on each of the corners, okay? You'll see it there on your sheet. That's the software, music writing software, notation software. That's how that looks in that software. So that's a double sharp, okay? So an X with kind of little dots on it, or two sharps. It's preferred that you write it as an X, not as two sharps, but that's what it means, okay? The double sharp meaning you go up a whole step. Now, bass clef, double flats. So if you see two flats, violas, I'll do one for you here too. So a flat lowers a note 1/2 step, right? Two flats lower a note by 1 whole step. Now, here's the other thing is there isn't another symbol for this. You will always just see two flats, okay, by a note, and that means it goes down a whole step. Okay, so let's say that's E double flat. So go down a whole step from E. E double flat is the same thing as D. Okay, now, whenever we talk about double flats and double sharps and note and enharmonic, okay? Enharmonic means that E double flat is the same thing as D natural. Okay, they sound the same. If I was to play E double flat and D natural, they sound exactly the same. So this is probably the question you're asking. Why do we need E double flat then? Why not just write D? It would sure make it a lot easier if you're reading music and then to sit there and go, okay, double flat. The answer that I have to give you, you probably won't like, because there's a level where it's when you understand it down the road, it will make more sense, okay? But when we're talking about chords, like major and minor chords, okay? So let's say we're talking about triads. In order for a group of notes, a chord to be a triad, remember, they have to all be in thirds, okay? So let's say, bass clef here, let's say this is the C triad, okay? If I want it to be a C triad, it has to be C, E, and G. Now, I can make it C minor by adding a flat here. I can make it diminished by adding a flat here, which we're going to talk about next week. Okay, so, okay, whatever. Like, oops, I didn't finish my thought there. So we've got C, E flat, G. Okay, why not write this as C, D sharp, G? It's going to sound the same, right? Well, because that's not a triad. As soon as you throw that D in there, it's not a triad. They're all thirds, okay? So think about it this way. If I have, go back to treble clef, an A flat, take it back. Let's do D flat, G flat. A G flat major triad is G flat, B flat, D flat. Well, what if I want to make this minor? I've got G flat, B flat, D flat. In order to lower this one, I have to add another flat. In order to have a G flat minor triad, I have to have a double flat here. As soon as I write this as an A, it's not a G flat triad anymore. Okay? Do you see that? So the double flat is all about the way it's spelled. Okay? So in order for me to say a G flat chord, a G flat minor chord, I have to be able to have that double flat in order to lower the pitch. And if I write an A natural, it's not going to be a G flat minor chord anymore. Okay? So a lot of it is how it looks on the page. Does it change the way it sounds? No, it still sounds like an A, or it still sounds like a B double flat. But in order, again, for it to be that right chord in a triad, then I have to be able to have a double flat or a double sharp to change those chords, and that they would be spelled correctly. And so it works for G flat, but then as we jump into diminished chords and augmented chords and seventh chords, we're going to need that flexibility to be able to have thirds and keep the letters as thirds, but then to expand and contract the intervals. Okay? So that's an answer to hopefully a question you were thinking of, like, why do we need these? Okay, so here I give you double sharps and double flats. I want you to tell me what's another way of writing them. So A flat, A double flat. What's another way of, how else if you were to play A double flat, how else could you write that? What other note? It's called the enharmonic spelling. Okay, then on this page, it's reviewing major triads and minor triads. Here at the top, tell me if it's what chord it is. So you have to figure out, okay, what's the name of the chord? Remember, the name of the chord is always based on the bottom note, the root, okay? Then tell me if it's major or minor. So if it's a minor chord, if it's a major chord, it just gets a capital letter, A. If D is the bottom note, D. If it's a minor chord, it's the letter and then a lowercase m, okay? Then at the next section, I want you to write 4. I give you the root note, write 4 major chords. So again, write the notes first, third, 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 okay? Go up a third, go up a third. Sorry, that was an extra third in there. Go up, and then count half steps. How many half steps are between the bottom 2 notes for a major third? Then how many are between the top 2 for a minor third? Major chords have major third, minor third. Then I want you to write a minor triad. How many half steps are between the bottom 2 notes on a minor triad? 3, and then top is 4, okay? And then I ask you that question down here. So if you have trouble with those, look back at the last lessons where we've talked about lesson 16, we talked about major triads, lesson 17, minor triads, okay? So we're kind of starting to take all of this stuff that we've been learning and put it all together. So this isn't like, oh, I've learned, I can read the front page and figure out what to do on the back page. We're applying what we did last week, okay? And the week before. So if you need help, look back at those. If that still doesn't answer your question, send me an email, a text, have your parents call, whatever, or ask your private lesson teacher. Okay, that's it for this week. Have a great week, and I hope you guys are getting your electricity and water all back, and that everything in your house will be okay and calm down here, and school will be back soon. It's been a crazy week, so hopefully next week will be less crazy for you. We'll see you later. Have a great week.